Hello and welcome to today's Data Studio update. This is Ahmad, and I'm really excited to share with you the update that Google released yesterday for Google Data Studio. It's a new chart type and it's actually a Google map. And today we're going to discover all of the features and the data properties and the style properties of this new chart type together. Those of you that have used the previous map chart in Google Data Studio know that it had some types of limitations. You couldn't find every city or region on that map. You couldn't zoom in and out, or you couldn't pan around to see the different parts of the map. And many people wanted a better option to plot the location specific data on a map. And then on the other hand, Google already has this awesome Google map that everybody uses on a daily basis. We use it to get the driving directions. We use it to find cafes and restaurants nearby. We know how to use it. Now, with this update, Google brought the same familiar interface and all the functionalities of a Google map inside Data Studio, and we can plot our data on top of this map. For example, here, if I try to filter out this report to just take a look at California, automatically zooms in on the map. But again, we can zoom out if we want to, we can zoom in, and this comes in handy when our data is more granular. So for example, it's based in city or even zip codes and addresses. And yes, this map can also plot the addresses and zip codes. So for example, if you can put an address in the Google map and brings you directly to the exact location of that address. If your data set has addresses in that format, in a format that Google can understand for any country, then you can plot that data onto the Google map. It is exciting, isn't it? Let's go to the edit mode and try to recreate this map together. I'm using a dark interface. I hope you're okay with that. And everything is visible and you can read the labels. So first, let me delete this map and try to recreate it again. So to create such a map, just like any other chart, we go to the add a chart menu and just put the chart here. And let me resize this a bit. Okay, so the first thing that we notice is that unlike the previous map in Google Data Studio, this map uses bubbles overlaid on the map to plot the data. The previous map, it could kind of bring shades to different areas, different cities, countries, or regions, and show the data with different shades of a color. This is not yet available, but based on what I've heard, it is on the roadmap and will be available soon. So now this map is plotting region, okay? We can plot cities instead of regions, and the number of bubbles should increase. Let's try and zoom in on the map in the view mode. It is not possible to interact with the map in the edit mode. We have to go to the view mode to interact with the map. And right now, because it is not filtered, it is showing the whole map. We can zoom in and see the data for each city. Okay, and the metric here is the number of records because we've just added a single dimension city. So the cities are being plotted on the map. You can see, we can zoom in and see from which cities there are records in this data set. And the data set, by the way, is the Google Analytics demo account, for the merchandise store. Let's go back and see what else can we add. Now I want to change the style of this map because I believe it's not so much visible. We go to the style tab and see what we can do. I've already looked at it. There are different styles that you can choose for this map. So you can choose silver, which uses a kind of light version of the map with just light grays and white, which allows us to better see our data. So if I go to the view mode, this is easier to view for the remote user. And then let's go back to the edit mode and see what else do we have. So this was silver, and we were using the dark mode before, and the standard is the standard colored interface of the Google Map. Oh, I forgot, we cannot interact with the map in the edit mode. Okay, we just cannot do that. I was going to pan on the map, but it wasn't possible. So let's do it. Now we can see the map in the colorful style. And then the final one, so we've seen the silver, the standard, the dark one. This one is coming from the report theme, which I applied the dark report theme. And we also can have the satellite view. Okay, this is also cool. Based on the theme that you're using for your report, you can use the satellite view. And then let's go back to the map view, and let me go to the view mode and zoom in a bit. For example, let's go over to the United States, because this is GH demo account, and I assume there should be more data. Okay, so let's try to take a look at New York. Okay, so here we can see that as we zoom in, more data will become visible, and we can edit this also in the style tab. So the level of granularity that we can see the maps and roads and labels, so we can just try to show less roads. Okay, so just maybe let's try that. Yep. So it is not showing any roads. If we just increase it a little bit, now it should only show kind of highways. I guess this one is when we are looking at a city level. So if let's see if I can zoom in. No, I cannot. So we have to zoom in even a bit more to see the impact of okay, so here if I increase this, now we can see the streets, and even more, now we can see more labels on the map. Also, we can do the same for the landmarks. Okay, so we can just remove them all to kind of make the map simpler. If we are showing a zoomed in view of the maps, or we expect that our users are going to zoom in and the amount of data on the map might be overwhelming for them, so to the point that they cannot see the data. So we can, for example, remove labels here, okay, just to see the names of the larger areas or the major cities, okay, something like that. Now, another styling feature of the new Google Map, which I'm so excited about, and I'm gonna show to you, is that we can edit the JSON settings of the Google Map styling. So the way it works that we open the Google Map platforms, the styling wizard. Okay, now we can click create and style, and then we can adjust the settings of the map to make it look exactly like the way we want it. Okay, so we can, for example, create this theme like kind of aubergine, and then when we've finished, we just come here, we can copy the JSON, okay, and we can head back to Google Data Studio, remove these, and paste the JSON here. This is so cool. This is so exciting. So you can stylize your map based on your brand colors in the logo and the rest of the colors in the report, especially if the report is going to be viewed on larger screens in the office. Your clients are gonna love you. Okay, so let's see, now the style is custom. We cannot choose the level of details for the roads and the landmarks anymore because it is being decided by the JSON object that we put in the custom field over there. Here we can choose how many bubbles do we want to see on our chart. Maybe you're working with a data set that are too many bubbles on the chart and you want to just simplify it a bit. You can change this number here, or Let's choose 5000 to see if it is going to plot more bubbles. The report is loading. It seems that it is getting more data, and oh, it just kind of resets the zoom level, so we cannot actually figure out. I assume it's getting data from more rows and is plotting more data in here. Let's try to zoom in on the same level. It seems to be more bubbles. Okay, so assuming your data has more rows, you can increase or decrease the number of bubbles that are overlaid on your map. And then next, we can choose the size of the bubbles. So if you have too many bubbles, you can maybe reduce the size so they're more visible. And if they're fewer and not visible at all, you might want to increase their size. Here you can change the color of the bubbles. So what we changed in the style setting and the JSON was for the map itself. And now here we are deciding about the numbers and sizes and colors of the bubbles itself, of the data that's going to be plotted over the map. Next, we can decide what kind of map controls do we want to give our users. Do we want to allow them to pan and zoom? Nope. Do we want to allow them to enter the street view? Okay. Personally, most of the time I don't want to. I cannot think of a reason I want to give my users to enter the street view mode when they're looking at my report. But anyway, the option is there. You might want to also restrict their ability to put the map on full screen, but it's a nice feature. Let's take a look. If I full screen the map, it's going to explode and go out of the visible area that I'm recording right now, because my monitor is actually by the screen and it's covered the screen completely. I have to reach over here to bring it back to edit mode and see what else do we have. This is one of the best visualizations. Best looking, I mean not most useful, because depending on the type of data you might not use it frequently, but it is the kind of best looking data visualization that's been around in Data Studio. So we can limit them and not allow them to go full screen. We can allow them to change the map type to switch between the map and the satellite format. And we also can show and hide the scale control, which shows you a little line over here that you can use to understand the scale of the map. Let me change these and bring the pan and zoom back on. And finally, down there, the same old style controls that we have for the rest of the charts in Data Studio. The background, which I don't know why exactly is the background here. This is just a standard feature. The background is not visible, obviously, for this chart, but we can add a border if we want to. Okay, that's kind of cool. Let's see. Yeah, it has a border now. Now, enough about the styling features of this new map type. Let's take a look at the data properties. So, like every chart, we have the data source. Of course, our data source should have some fields of the geographic type, so we can use them to plot this map. The first thing that we can configure here is the bubble location. It means, are we plotting based on a city, a country, a region, or in the United States, it would be the state or the continent. Okay, now I'm going to change this, for example, to region. Okay, so we can see our data based on the regions in different countries and the states in the United States. Let me just quickly decrease the size of the bubbles. The numbers is good. Go back to the data properties. The next thing is the tooltip. So when the user of the report viewer, hovers on one of these bubbles like this, okay, it is showing the value of the dimension that is set for the bubble location. So in this case, it's the region. If we use it, if we just hover over the bubbles in the US, we see the names of the states, right? One bubble per state, and it's the name of the state. But we can change it. And that's the exciting point about it. So let's say we want to see the region ID in here. And now we get the first error for our new Google Maps chart. It says the tooltip dimension region ID has multiple values for the same bubble location region. It means that, okay, just think about it. When we hover over a region, the value of the dimension region ID should have a one-to-one relationship with that region. We cannot have two values for one region. If we do have this, Data Studio doesn't know which one of those values to show. Let's try something else. I don't know why is it happening per region. There should be a one-to-one location. Maybe there's something I don't know about the region dimension, but let's try with countries. Each country has an ISO code, and there must be a one-to-one relationship between the country's name and the country's ISO code. So if, for example, let's say, choose the country as the bubble location. Okay, so here we have it. Now we have to get another error because there are multiple region IDs per country, of course, but if we put the country's ISO code, which must be unique for each country, now we have our data plotted. Let's go to the view mode and see what do we have here. Let's go to the Europe. Okay, so let's look at Germany, CE. Let's look at Hungary, where I live, HU, or Netherlands, NL. Okay, so there is, you can see that there is a one-to-one relationship between the main dimension, the bubble location, and the tooltip. Whenever you have two dimensions that have one-to-one relations like this, you can use one of them as the value for the tooltips. Okay, next, what do we have in the Data Properties tab? So we have our bubble location. We can decide, this is optional, we can decide from which dimension do we get the value for the tooltip. If we remove it, it shows the actual name of the country for the tooltip. And then we can choose the bubbles color. And we have bubble color here and also here. So we can apply a metric as the bubble color or apply a dimension. Let me just switch back to the region because I want more bubbles. And let me just remove this, get rid of it. Okay, let me quickly zoom in to the... I don't want to always zoom into the US. Let's do something about it. Okay, so let's filter our Google map. Or let's see if we can filter our Google map. Let's add a filter that says we only want to show data for the US because I don't want to zoom in. United States, save, and that's it. Okay, so we have Hawaii and Alaska here, and that's why it doesn't zoom in completely on the map. Theoretically, we can filter them out, but it just takes too much time. Let's go back to the edit mode. Okay, let's take a look at bubble color. We can add a dimension as the bubble color or add a metric, okay? And there are differences about it. Let's start with the dimension. Let's say we want to give each region a specific color, okay? Now, instead of all the bubbles being in the yellow color that we've selected in the style tab earlier, we can see different colors, okay? They kind of look like each other, but they're actually different. And if we come back to the style tab, now we can choose manage dimension value colors. Now here we can choose a color, for example, for California. We can choose a custom color just so it's completely visible on the chart. Let's change it for Texas too. Okay, and close. Now we can see for California it's red, for Texas it's yellow, the values that we set. We can use this whenever there is a use case in our data visualization to have, oh, I'm interacting with the chart again. We can use this whenever there is a use case for our data visualization that we want different bubble colors per dimension. And the dimension doesn't have to be the same as the bubble location. We can choose country here. Okay, we can choose country here to give each country a specific color. And now if I remove the filter from here, now we get the same error, so there is no direct relationship between countries and regions. Let's try continent. Okay, now it's working. So for each continent, the bubbles have the same color. If we go to the Style tab again and manage dimension value colors, here we need to search for the continent values like Europe. Okay, I want to make Europe yellow and the North America. We don't have it. Americas. Okay, I make it kind of green. And then let's just change it for Africa too. So for Africa, we're making it kind of red or purple. Okay, that's it. Now you see how the bubble colors change based on the values of a dimension. If you, for example, in this case, if you wanted to have different colors for North America and South America, we should have used the subcontinent as the value of dimension, not the continent. Now let's delete this, okay, and choose a metric as the value for the bubble color. Let me apply the filter again. So we look at only United States. And now let's see, we want to use different colors to communicate to the viewer of the report which state is bringing more revenue. We can put revenue in here. Some of the states are blue, some of them are gray, like this one and this one, and then California is yellow. Where are these colors coming from? We can already see that California has the largest amount of revenue in this data set. But let's figure out how we can change the colors of the rest of the bubbles. Let me go to the Style tab, and here we have the color settings for when we apply a metric to the bubble colors. So the highest one, the maximum, would be yellow in this case. There is no mid color. There's blue for the minimum color. So the states that have less revenue, they become blue. We can change it, for example, let's say to green. Okay, now they become green. And then for where there is no data for the dimension value, we have the dataless color, which in this case is gray. We can make it black just to see if anything changes. Not really. So there should be some value, even 0, for the rows that we have data for. But in this case, different colors for the bubbles are not really the best way to communicate that California has a really larger value for the revenue compared to the rest of the state. So let's go back to the data tab, and this time let's put revenue instead of bubble color to the bubble size. Okay, now it's better. Now we're talking. This is really easier to understand. We can see which state has the most revenue and which state has the least revenue, and we can compare the amount of revenue made per state. Now, if we want to also plot another metric, we can use bubble color. For example, we can put users in there, the number of users. Let me scroll down. It's always at the bottom of the list. Okay, so now the size of the bubble represents the amount of revenue in that state, and the color of the bubble represents the number of users. Another thing that we can try is, for example, to put average order value instead of the number of users. That would be a good example. So we want to see revenue and then average order value for the color of the bubbles. Here we can see in the Indiana we have less revenue but much higher average order value. So that's basically it. In the data tab we have the filter which we use. We have the Google Analytics segments which we can use if we are connecting to a Google Analytics data source such as this one. And we also have the default date range just like any other chart, but we don't have the possibility to compare with another date range like previous period or previous year. And I'm not really sure if it's technically possible to plot the differences, comparison between different date ranges on a map. But maybe it comes in the future, or maybe it's not, I'm not really sure. But it has the ability to become an interactive chart to cross-filter the rest of the numbers and charts on the page. If we click apply filter and go back to the view mode, now you see this table. At the beginning of this video, I clicked on this table to filter the map on the right. Okay, now I'm gonna do the opposite. Click on the map to filter the table. Oh, that's nice. I just accidentally used the wheel on my mouse and it is zooming in and out. So that's also a nice feature. So if you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out on the map. I don't know if it works if we deselect this feature. It shouldn't, but I just don't want to bore you with trying out everything. You can try that for yourself. Just as the final tip, if you apply different dimensions or metrics to decide the size of the bubbles, to decide the color of the bubbles, make sure to communicate that to the user of the report, because otherwise they won't know if a larger size for a bubble, for example, represents a higher revenue amount or a higher number of users or another metric. It doesn't display that unless you hover, and then it's just complex, it's hard to understand. So make sure to write this down somewhere close to your map to make it more useful for the end user of the report. That was for today. This was the Google Maps in Google Data Studio. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm so excited about this and I'm looking forward to including it in my reports going forward. And actually I'm going to go back and change some of my client-facing reports to this new cool map. If you haven't subscribed to the Measure School's YouTube channel yet and you want to be notified of the future videos that we publish, please hit subscribe or feel free to comment below and I'm going to read them and answer the ones that I know the answer to. If you like to learn more about Data Studio, I have a few more tutorials here in Measure School. Be sure to look them up and watch them. I hope you enjoy them as well. Thank you very much. My name is Ahmed. Bye.